Broker Daily Uncut.
Broker Daily Uncut.
News, views and opinion about what's shaping Australia's mortgage and finance industry.
Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Broker Daily Uncut. Your host Jack Campbell joining you after a long weekend. For everyone in Brisbane, you're probably celebrating pretty heavy. It was an action-packed weekend of sport. Last weekend and the last few weeks, the AFL, NRL and NRLW, Brisbane got up. So I imagine all the brokers listening up in Brisbane have probably had a pretty hectic weekend. Did you manage to watch it,
I didn't
Alex?
watch any of it. It's not my thing. So what's the go here? So in England, say, for example, if I'm a Liverpool fan, I might live in Liverpool. I might also live in Glasgow. I assume that it's kind of quite parochial here. You're not going to support one of the Brisbane teams if you don't live in Brizzy or at least in Queensland, are you?
My best mate grew up in the Blue Mountains. He's a diehard Brisbane fan and a Queensland fan, which is, I think, disgusting, but that's what he does. And he was very happy that his team got up. So,
well, I would then say congratulations to all of those that support the teams that won and commiserations to those that don't.
Exactly right. And it's always good to see Melbourne lose. And we have our other co-host here, Eva. Eva, welcome back to another episode.
You're mad for a bit of Aussie sport, aren't you, Eva?
No, I don't really.
Well, it's not
shit.
well, there's not much NRL, AFL over there, so you'd be more excited for the football season to kick off, I imagine. But it's a special episode today because it's actually my last episode of Broker Daily Uncut, which is very bittersweet. It's been over a year now that we've been doing this, and we've just got Eva on, so it's probably good timing that get me out, who doesn't know what he's talking about, and get the pro in here, Eva.
Let's get things in proportion. You're not the only person who doesn't know what they're talking about. But you don't. You've been so the custodian of the transition from mortgage business feels like a distant memory, but you're the custodian of Broker Daily, and you've been instrumental in establishing that brand, hosting the podcast, and you've been involved in all the events and driving the whole platform. So it's been good, Jack.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Heading up the road, not too far
to
from
the
the
advisor?
office. No, no, I don't know if Annie would take me.
Nah.
Heading up the road to a tech company and heading up their internal comms. So something a bit different. But yeah, as I said, bittersweet. This is Momentum was my first job out of uni. It's all I know. Everything I've learned in media has come from this company. So it's very sad to leave it all behind, and very sad to leave all the brokers behind. They're all a very fun bunch. I've sort of been engrossed in the industry for the past year and a bit, going to events, getting people on podcasts. They love a beer, so had a few of those as well. And yeah, it's sad to see it go, but you're in safe hands.
I've tried to leave, but I found I can't leave mortgage broking. It's like a magnet for me. So, but I've been working in mortgage broking from a media perspective for over 25 years now. So I think I'm probably this is where I'll stay.
Yeah, well, you're not the only one that feels like that. I go to these events and you meet brokers, and they've all been in the industry for a couple decades, and they never leave. They bounce around. They know each other. I feel like these events they use as an excuse to catch up with old mates because everyone knows each other. But anyway, you're being safe hands. You've got Eva now on the podcast who can be your source of info. Yeah, but it's good to get us all back in the studio again because it's been a busy week with news. A lot going on. Obviously, the RBA cash rate was the big one. It was a hold. Everyone was expecting a hold, but I think the important lesson that came out of that was a lot of people coming forward and urging brokers to be proactive and not let it go to waste and get out there and engage with clients. Eva, you're at the coalface. Have you been out there? Your brokers been chatting to people and talking about refinancing following the hold?
It's been going on for quite some time already. Lenders are very aggressive for new clients, for new customers, much more than they are, to retain their clients. So there's a lot of activity in that space into refinancing, and that's where people can get much better rates just by moving around. Definitely. So it's not a conversation we've had in the last 2 weeks. It's a conversation we've had, since the rates are coming down really.
So lenders have sort of been competing with each other to snag new business.
Yeah, and what's a bit sad sometimes for us is also banks, when people go to banks directly, sometimes offering very, very sharp rates on top of rebates, which sometimes we can't access. So it's been a bit of a unfair competition in some instances.
This comes back to the old debate around, whether you're buying on price and whether you're buying on advice.
Yes.
If you're buying on price, if you want to, there's plenty of comparison sites which will show ridiculously low prices. But the bottom line is, when you're borrowing hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars, do you really, are you really going to go for the lowest price?
Well, that's it. And people don't know sometimes is, are you getting an offset? Are you getting, fee-free changes during the life of your loan? How much is the annual fee? How much is the settlement fee? Sometimes they don't know. And at the end of the day, even if you get your $2,000 rebate, it's really not worth. Really not worth.
$2,000 rebate on a X hundreds of thousands or $1 million loan.
Comes on $1 million loan. Yeah.
And we all know. Look, we're preaching the converted here, but we know that lenders' rates change, right? So I get the lowest rate now, and guess what? I get rusted on. They move the rate up, and then within 18 months, I'm no longer on the lowest rate. But this is an important continual narrative around the proposition of mortgage broking, is that it isn't about the sharpest and the lowest rate. It's about getting holistic advice around debt solutions. What do you see in terms of? Are you seeing any customer trends ever in terms of the type of business that you've got coming your way or across your team?
We do obviously a lot of investment loans, but since we've had a few rate cuts now, and lenders really opening up policies and being hungry for business, we do see a lot of clients coming up for refinance, equity release, and potentially new purchases. So that's where we see a lot in the last 6 months. People just saying, it looks like I can go again, so let's make it happen. Well, and they're happy to refinance to higher rates. Sometimes they're happy to refinance to the bank that will give them the biggest valuation so they can access equity. As you said, it's not about the rate anymore once you know the finance game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if it, and the major banks are anything to go by, all four of them are sort of penning 2026 now for the next rate cut. So it could be a while that we're stuck with this. And if they're, scrambling for new customers, brokers might be able to expect some changes in policy and a bit of competition heat up, which is always a good thing, I think, for everyone involved. We'll just throw to a quick break. We'll be back into more content just after this. And we're back with Broker Daily Uncut. A bit of extra news from last week was the home guarantee scheme expansion kicked off on the 1st of October. So 5% deposits for all first home buyers anyway. Eva, I know you work with investors mostly, but have you noticed any sort of upticks in first home buyers coming through following the expansion, or from brokers that you speak to?
We've had a few, but actually in an investment perspective where people would buy their first home under that scheme, but would turn it into an investment when time is up, I guess. So I guess it's a way for people to get in the market quicker. I don't know if long term that would be a great solution if somebody who struggled to put 5% together then borrow 95% and have to repay a mortgage, at that level. I think it would be great for people who can get in quick. In 6 months' time or a year time, it might be a different story when prices have potentially gone up again.
Yeah, well, that's the debate that's been circling it since it was announced, was the bit of a double-edged sword with it. But I think, it's not sort of a one-size-fit-all solution, but good for those that are able to get into the property market a little bit earlier. And so you're saying a lot of rent investors are coming out now that this expansion's kicked off.
Look, you can obviously buy it as a home and eventually turn it into something else later on. So even though it's for first-home buyers, people to live in the property, I think a lot of other people who are more, listening to SPI and podcasts and wanting to invest also going to benefit from that.
Definitely.
Wanting to anyway.
To do that, though, you got to obviously live in the area where you're buying.
Need to live in it.
So,
yeah.
I talked to my daughter over the weekend, Eva. I know that you know Lizzie, and I'm saying, even though she's not going to be eligible, she's not going to be able to buy in her local area, and she's quite happy in the house that she's in. But I'm really keen for her, and she's also now keen to look at stepping into the investment market. I'm really, really, really focused on opportunities, particularly in Melbourne myself. I'm going to buy my SMSF for the first time. I'm still waiting to settle on a place that purchased. We're getting very close to settlement now. I have to say that the lender that my broker was initially putting the business with has just stalled. You know, it's been 95% there, but they haven't given the approval, and we've had to move very quickly, about 10 days out from settlement, to take it to a non-bank lender. It's gone to Resimac, so a shout out to Resimac, and I believe that's all but done. So yeah, it's interesting. I know it's for my broker, for Rebecca, it has been unbelievably stressful. I don't put pressure on Rebecca because I'm sort of a little bit blasé when it comes to such things. So I know there'll always be a solution, but you know, it's NAB private. I'll be quick to delineate between. You know, it's a sort of a more complex structure buying through a trust, but you need a decision, right? As a broker, are you going to do it or not? It doesn't matter.
So yeah, you've been talking about this for a while now. Sort of a few troubles that you've been having.
It's just so again, from both a mortgage broker and from a buyer perspective, you just need a decision. Are you going to do it or aren't you? Because there are other lenders that will, you know, and again, as Eva said, like I'm not rate sensitive, so. It's not a matter of having to have the lowest rate. Of course, I'd like to have the lowest rate I can get, but it's the main thing is, can I get finance? You know, and can finance be approved quickly and painlessly? And it's been very painful with NAB Private. Yeah, and they haven't, and they still. And in the end, I end up, you know, speaking to the private banker and saying, "Look, I just need a decision. Please, can you let me off the hook so we can go somewhere else?" Yeah. You know. So
well, anyway. You were saying off air that you make a lot of your investment decisions very quickly. So imagine if you're making them very quickly, you need quick finance.
But you're talking about 6 weeks, maybe 5 weeks, 6 weeks. With it's a long time to give a decision. You know, we've provided all the documentation, or the broker has done that. So anyway, look, I don't know where I'm quite going with this. It's not necessarily a criticism of, certainly not a criticism of NAB as a lender. I know they're doing incredible things through the mainstream mortgage broking channel. This is not through the mainstream mortgage broking channel. It is, you know, access to their private banking. But yeah, it's more of a matter of a shout out to Resimac for moving very quickly. And bear in mind as well, this isn't Resimac being told that it's for somebody who hosts a broking podcast. It's just a customer, and it's good to see that the broker, Rebecca, has been able to find a lender that's been able to move quickly, understanding her plight, not necessarily the borrower's plight, and provide a solution where now suddenly time's of the essence. So again, you know, you look at, had I been gone, and again, this is the importance of using a broker, right? You know, whether NAB gives a quick decision or not, it's kind of immaterial. As a buyer, as a borrower, had I gone direct to the lender and they dither, then I'm in real trouble. But using a broker, they're able to, even though it's stressful for the broker, they can move really quickly to find another solution. So,
yeah, well, very interesting. Good to hear the stories straight from the.
It's not settled yet. It's not finally done yet. So, but yeah, it's all looking good.
How's it been for you? You know, SMSF, first time doing it. How's the process been with your broker?
So this was just a purchase through my trust structure. I made the snap decision over the weekend, again looking at the Melbourne market, to buy in SMSF, and I messaged my poor broker at 7 a.m. saying, "I've got good news. I'm going to buy my SMSF." She gave me a call and she said, "Okay, let's get it ready to go, because I found an apartment that I'd like to purchase. There's good yield on it." And so I don't know. Yeah, it would appear that again, I'll trust my mortgage broker to navigate through the SMSF. I set my SMSF up probably 8-9 years ago. I've kind of mucked around with shares. They kind of suddenly come good, so I want to now take some of the value out of those shares and put it into property, which I love property, and I feel very assured with property, and I know how to evaluate yield versus sort of potential capital growth and essential value in the asset at the time of purchase. So I feel good about it.
That's exciting. Yeah, onto some new property. You've been talking about Melbourne for quite a while now. So yeah, still hot at the moment.
I think everyone, I'm not the only person talking about it. I think everyone is now, you talk to any buyer's agent, it's Melbourne. But it will it's going to be a couple of years. That you're at the beginning of a bull run for Melbourne. You just look historically at the values of property there versus other capital cities, and the long-term potential for growth. I mean, Melbourne is an incredible city. It's a global, top-ranked city to live in. So we're not talking about, some small place that's just popped up that people think is a good idea. It's always been a very good long-term investment. It's, there's been some challenges over the last decade, I guess, to the market, but it's kind of now looking a lot more attractive.
Yeah, definitely.
Anyway, we were straying into SPI terms.
I know.
Still Tarrant's land.
Yeah, well, a lot of the people that we talk to in around the property market say the same thing, so a lot of opportunity there. We'll just throw to another break. We'll be back into more content just after this. And we're back with Broker Daily Uncut. A few more things trickled in last week. I know that people were gearing up for the long weekend and there was a lot going on, but I saw a bit of data come through around investor activity, and I thought, Eva, that's your wheelhouse. Regional New South Wales popping off apparently for investors. Is that something you've noticed as well?
Yeah, we've had a few, and I think people with the high interest rate are obviously seeking higher yield. And so we've seen regional New South Wales, but we've also seen quite a few in Darwin, which was I guess unexpected. The last 3 months got quite a few there. And northern Queensland. So maybe to balance what's going on with Melbourne and the lower yield happening there.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I know Darwin, when we look at the property data that comes through from Cotality, it seems to be ticking up all the time, which is interesting. Never been to Darwin myself, but
it's a fantastic place.
You should go, yeah.
I absolutely love it. It's a really, really it's a wonderful city. But yeah, look, I can't claim to know the property market there, but I was it was long overdue going for a trip up there. Went up with Phil. We went up for the anniversary of the invasion of Darwin. Primarily through our defence portfolio. But yeah, what a great place.
Good fishing up there.
You know what? I'm a bit nervous of crocs. So I'm venturing out in a tinny up there. I'm sure there's plenty that do it. Well, I know there are, but like some pom wandering about in a rented tinny there, maybe not. But a great place, And looking at the property market there, Darwin kind of lurches around a little bit, and it looks pretty good at the moment.
I had another interesting chat actually last week with the guys at Prosper, and I spoke to a few different BDMs from around the country and sort of talking about regional broker needs, and it was interesting to hear them talk about how New South Wales differs from a place like Darwin for how BDMs engage with brokers, and they said it's a lot more, community, going out, having coffees and connecting with their brokers up there because it's, a fraction of the size of a city like Sydney. Whereas,
so we went out. We went up through the defence portfolio, and we met a minister in the pub and had schooners.
Yeah,
it was a Friday afternoon. Somebody, a government representative. It's a very different pace of life up there, and there is something very comforting about the kind of the community-based heartbeat of Darwin. I don't purport to be an expert. I've been there once, but very quickly got a sense for the way that the heartbeat of that town.
Yeah, it's just something that's not possible in a city like Sydney or Melbourne with how massive it is, and that's what these BDMs were saying. They were saying New South Wales is more just they want speed, they want to get in and out.
But again, I live in and around Sydney, and I'm a foreigner. I'm English, and you end up living in your own little bubble of the capital city, right? There's obviously a huge number of people tuning in that don't live anywhere near capital cities, that live in sort of smaller communities, and so you can end up being a bit Sydney centric in the way you view the world, right?
Yeah, 100%. And Sydney's so diverse. There's so many different pockets of Sydney that are completely different from one another. We were laughing only the other day, a lot of the guys here from Ireland, and they're like talking about Sydney, and they say, "Oh, I headed west for the weekend." We're like, "Where'd you go?" They're like, "Oh, Marrickville." It's like, Marrickville's not west. You want west, you got to go out to the heartland out in Penrith. And but it's just funny, Sydney's such a massive city and a city of opportunity, which I think is why brokers are so successful here, right, Eva?
Yeah, there's lots, and it's what I liked actually. It's there's people from everywhere. Everything is just working very well as one. So it's lots to love for sure.
Yeah, it's very exciting. But unfortunately, last episode that you'll hear me on. So I want to thank everyone for listening, and thank you, Alex and Eva, for the last year of great content and great chats, and I've learned a lot on this podcast, and I've learned a lot from all the people that engage with this podcast. So
good on you, Jack. You've done a great job. It's not your first gig in journalism. You're very successful as the editor of HR Leader. So, we will wish you all the best, and I look forward to staying in touch.
We definitely will. So thanks, guys. If you want to reach out to me, you've got a couple days left, good or bad, let me hear it. Editor at brokerdaily.au. And the content will continue at brokerdaily.au. Don't worry about that. We'll chat to you again soon. Cheers.
The information featured in this podcast is general in nature and does not take into consideration your financial situation or individual needs and should not be relied upon. Before making any investment, insurance, tax, property or financial planning decision, you should consult a licensed professional who can advise whether your decision is appropriate for you. Guests appearing on this podcast may have a commercial relationship with the companies mentioned.